My name is Lucas, and tonight I'm working the graveyard shift with my coworker, Mia. We thought it would be a quiet night at the 7-Eleven, just the hum of the lights and the sound of rain on the windows. But as the clock struck midnight, the store became a place that didn't follow the rules of the living. Shadows moved when they shouldn't. Whispers slithered through the aisles, and we realized too late that something was watching us, and it never intended to let us leave. I never thought a night shift at the 7-Eleven would feel like stepping into another world. The rain outside was relentless, drumming against the windows in a rhythm that felt almost alive. Neon signs from neighboring stores flickered in the wet streets, casting colors that danced across the slick asphalt like shards of broken glass. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, harsh and unrelenting, making every corner seem sharper, every shadow deeper. I moved through the aisles, stocking shelves and arranging snacks, trying to keep my mind on the mundane tasks, but the silence pressed in around me like a weight. There were no customers, not a single car in the lot. It felt as though the world had stopped somewhere beyond the doors, leaving me trapped in the sterile glow of the store. It started subtly. I noticed a man standing near the refrigerated drinks, staring at the floor. His coat was soaked, dripping onto the tiles, but he didn't seem to notice or care. He didn't move, didn't breathe audibly, just remained rooted to the spot. At first, I thought he was a delivery worker who had wandered in early, but the longer I watched, the less sense it made. He didn't touch a thing, didn't glance around, didn't even shift his gaze from the floor. My hands shook slightly as I tried to focus on my task, but the sense of being watched grew. Every few seconds, I caught myself glancing back, half expecting him to have vanished, or worse, to be closer. And then he was gone, as if he had evaporated into thin air, leaving only a small puddle of water where he had stood. The tile around it was dry before. My stomach twisted, but I forced myself to breathe and move on. The air seemed heavier now, oppressive in a way that made my chest tight. I tried to convince myself it was just fatigue. But even as I straightened a stack of soda cans, I couldn't shake the feeling that the store itself was holding its breath, waiting. My gaze wandered to the glass doors, streaked with rain, and for a moment I swore I saw something reflected there, someone standing behind me, but when I turned, no one was there. The store felt alive, as if the shadows themselves were shifting, slinking along the edges of the aisles, watching me. And then I noticed it. On the condensation of the front glass door, a message had appeared. The letters were scrawled unevenly, dripping slightly as if formed from water, not written by any hand I could see. Don't leave. My heart slammed in my chest. I scanned the parking lot, the dark streets beyond. But there was no one. Nothing. My instincts screamed to get out, to call someone, but the words held me in place. It was as though the store itself had made the warning, as if it could see my every thought. The fluorescent lights flickered, casting the aisles in alternating shadows, making the shelves look impossibly tall and the corners impossibly deep. I stepped back, my shoes squeaking on the wet floor, my mind racing. Every instinct screamed that something was wrong, that I should leave immediately. But then the lights hummed louder, the buzzing vibrating through my skull, and I realized I wasn't alone. That figure, the man, had returned, standing just beyond the checkout counter now, face hidden in the shadow of his wet hood. My legs froze, my mouth dry, and a cold realization settled over me. Whatever was here, whatever watched from the corners and from the glass, wasn't human, and it had noticed me. By midnight, the store felt suffocating, as if the walls were slowly closing in around me. The fluorescent lights buzzed incessantly, each flicker making the shadows shift and stretch in ways that seemed impossible. I tried to focus on the mundane, stocking shelves, checking dates on cans, but it was useless. Something about the air was different, heavy, electric. Every time I moved down an aisle, I thought I saw movement from the corner of my eye, small, fleeting shapes darting between shelves. When I spun around, nothing was there. My pulse quickened. I felt like a prey animal, hunted and cornered in a place that was supposed to be safe. I went to the back of the store, telling myself I was imagining it, but the sense of being watched only intensified. The hum of the freezer seemed louder, almost like it was whispering to me. Soft syllables I couldn't quite hear but felt vibrating against my skin. My reflection in the glass of the refrigerator caught my eye, and for a moment I froze. It wasn't just me staring back. My own face looked hollow, twisted. My eyes darkened, and a smile stretched across my lips that I did not recognize. I blinked, and it was gone, leaving only my normal, pale face staring back. Then I heard it, a scraping sound from the storage room. It was soft at first, almost polite, but it grew louder, deliberate, like nails dragged across the concrete floor. I hesitated, my heart hammering, but I had to know what it was. Slowly, I opened the door. The room smelled faintly of damp cardboard and bleach. The shelves were neat, stacked with boxes and cans, everything in its proper place. And yet, at the very top, a single can had been knocked over. It had rolled across the floor, coming to rest just at the threshold. My breath caught in my throat. I bent down to inspect it, and as I did, the can suddenly shot toward me as if propelled by some invisible hand, striking my leg with a force that left a painful dent. My knees buckled, and I stumbled backward, panic flooding me. I tried to tell myself it was just gravity, just a coincidence, but a creeping dread settled over me, cold and unrelenting. The shadows in the room seemed to thicken, pulsating as though alive, and the whispering hum returned, closer now, coming from everywhere at once. My instincts screamed to run, but my feet felt rooted to the floor. I glanced toward the front of the store and saw movement again, a flicker near the doors, a shape that didn't belong. Every instinct I had told me this was wrong, terrifyingly wrong, yet I couldn't tear my eyes away. A sudden chill swept through the store, icy air that smelled faintly of rust and wet earth. The lights flickered violently, plunging the aisles into darkness for a heartbeat before buzzing back on, revealing nothing, and yet I felt something had moved in that moment, closer than before, somewhere just beyond my perception. I backed away, heart racing, my thoughts spiraling. Whoever or whatever was here. It wasn't human, and it was no longer just observing. It was testing me, playing with me, waiting for a moment of weakness. And I knew with terrifying clarity that one mistake tonight could mean I wouldn't leave this store alive. The hours dragged on, each second heavier than the last, as if time itself had grown thick and viscous inside the store. The shadows twisted and stretched along the aisles, clinging to corners and edges like living things. Every movement I made seemed to echo unnaturally, a hollow sound bouncing off the walls and ceiling. I tried to keep busy, scanning shelves, wiping counters, but nothing felt real. My hands shook, and my mind kept replaying that figure from earlier, the man in the soaked coat standing silently watching me. I tried to convince myself he was just a hallucination, a trick of exhaustion, but deep down I knew better. The hum from the freezers grew louder, vibrating through the linoleum floor and into my chest. It was no longer a simple appliance sound. It felt purposeful, deliberate, like the store itself was breathing. I followed the hum toward the back, toward the restroom, my legs moving almost automatically, guided by some irrational curiosity I could not resist. The door was slightly ajar, and faint steam curled from the edges, though I hadn't seen anyone turn on the water. The smell was faint, acrid, a mix of cleaning chemicals and something sour, rotten, almost metallic. I pushed the door open slowly, expecting emptiness. Inside, the tiles were smeared with something dark and sticky, glistening under the harsh fluorescent light. I stepped closer, heart hammering, stomach twisting. My reflection appeared in the mirror, but it was not me. My face was elongated, hollowed, my eyes wide and black, and my mouth stretched in a scream that I could feel in my own throat. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. The reflection moved independently, mimicking me at first, but then contorting into movements I could not replicate, jerking and twisting unnaturally. My breath caught and I stumbled back, barely managing to keep from falling. Then the lights flickered, plunging the restroom into darkness. I froze, listening, every nerve screaming. When the lights returned, the mirror was cracked, a spiderweb of fractures running across the glass. The reflection still stared back, but now it was grinning at me with teeth too sharp, too numerous, glinting in the flickering light. I tried to back away, my legs trembling, but I felt the room shift. The tiles seemed to stretch and warp beneath my feet, the ceiling looming higher and lower at random, like the store itself had become unstable. A scratching sound started behind me, slow and deliberate, like fingernails tracing across ceramic. I spun, expecting to see someone, anyone, but the restroom was empty. The door slammed shut on its own, and I was trapped inside. My heart raced as I pounded on the door, screaming, but the sound seemed to vanish into the air, swallowed by the store. The mirror now reflected not just the distorted version of me, but shadowy figures standing behind me, their faces pale, eyes hollow, mouths twisted in silent anguish. They didn't move except to mimic my own trembling, a mockery of life. I stumbled to the sink, my hands gripping the edges, and felt it. A cold pressure pressing down on my back, not physical, but undeniable. It was as though something unseen had wrapped itself around me, rooting me to the spot. I couldn't escape, couldn't breathe, couldn't think. And in the corner of my eye, the reflection whispered, not in words, but in intent. I was no longer alone. I was never alone. Dawn should have brought relief, but when the first pale light seeped through the windows, the store felt even more wrong than before. The fluorescent lights flickered weakly, struggling against the gray morning, but they did little to lift the oppressive weight that had settled over the aisles. Every shelf, every corner seemed altered somehow, as if the night had left a permanent mark. I moved cautiously, my footsteps echoing hollowly against the floor, and tried to convince myself that I had survived the worst of it. I was wrong. The registers were open, cash scattered across the counters like leaves in a storm, but no one had entered the store. Nothing had been stolen, no footprints in the wet floor, no sign that anyone had been here. My phone lay on the counter, screen cracked and black, completely dead. I picked it up, hoping for a signal, for a lifeline, but there was nothing. Silence stretched around me like a living thing, heavier than anything I had felt during the night. I turned to the security monitors, praying that they would show someone, anyone, coming to my aid. Most of the feeds were blank, static, flickering over empty shelves and aisles, except for one. The camera, pointed at the freezer in the back of the store, displayed a shape, tall and impossibly thin, its form shifting and wavering like smoke. Its eyes glowed red, burning through the grainy video, focused entirely on me. I felt my chest tighten, fear anchoring me to the spot. I spun around, and there it was, behind the counter, the same figure from before. Its form was distorted, tall and skeletal, cloaked in shadows that seemed to move independently, flickering across the walls. Its eyes glowed bright red, unblinking, and I realized with a terror that clawed at my mind that it had been here all along, waiting. I backed toward the door, hand trembling on the handle, but it wouldn't budge. No matter how hard I pushed, pulled, or screamed, the door refused to open. The lights flickered violently, and I felt the air grow thick, heavy with a suffocating presence. Whispering returned, a chorus of voices overlapping in a language I could not understand, pressing against my eardrums, seeping into my thoughts. My legs gave way beneath me as I stumbled to the floor, scrambling for anything to defend myself. The shadowy figure loomed closer, its form stretching impossibly as though the store itself had warped to accommodate its shape. Then I noticed something chilling. The registers were moving on their own, opening and closing, the cash fluttering as if caught in a ghostly wind. And in the reflection of the glass door, I saw not just the figure, but myself, or rather something wearing my face. Its mouth was stretched into a grin, eyes hollow, reaching for me from within the reflection. My breath hitched, heart pounding, and I realized I had become part of it, trapped in the store, unable to escape, unable to exist outside its influence. When the manager arrived later that morning, the store was empty. No one had seen me leave, no one had seen me enter. Only the front window bore a new message, smeared in condensation, each letter dripping as if alive. "Next time, don't hide." I could still hear the whispers when the wind caught the glass, calling my name, reminding me that I had not truly left. Somewhere, in the back of that store, I was still there staring from the freezer, waiting for the next soul unlucky enough to wander in after dark.